Close your eyes and imagine, 40,000 years ago, in a dark cave in southern France, a young Homo sapiens approaches the rock wall. His hands tremble, not from cold, but from something much deeper, the urgent need to create. He doesn't have modern brushes, canvases, or paints, but he has something no technology has ever been able to replicate. The ancestral need to transform silence into sound, emptiness into music, and oblivion into eternal memory. This moment, frozen in time, represents one of humanity's most profound evolutionary leaps, the birth of artistic expression as we know it today. As he draws a bison on the damp stone, his voice echoes through the cave, a low, guttural moan that transforms into a melody. The acoustics are perfect. Limestone walls that have been naturally carved by millennia of water erosion create a resonance chamber that would make modern audio engineers weep with envy. Unbeknownst to him, he has just created humanity's first recording studio. The cave amplifies his voice, the stone preserves his art, and the wind entering through the fissures becomes the first music producer in history, adding natural reverb and atmospheric layers to his primitive compositions. But how did we get from that first ancestral echo to the studios of Sony, and what did we lose along the way? This journey spans not just technological evolution, but a fundamental transformation in how we relate to sound, space, and each other. It's a story written in bone flutes and cave paintings, in fossilized vocal cords and ancient DNA, telling us that music isn't just entertainment. It's the very foundation of human civilization. To understand prehistoric music, we need to go much further back than those cave paintings. 6 million years ago, when our primate ancestors descended from the trees in the Great Rift Valley of Africa, they already carried an evolutionary treasure, the ability to produce complex sounds. This wasn't just random noise, it was the beginning of humanity's sonic signature, a vocal flexibility that would eventually separate us from every other species on Earth. Australopithecus afarensis, our famous Lucy from 3.2 million years ago, probably emitted grunts, alarm calls, and territorial cries that echoed across the Ethiopian highlands. Her larynx was positioned higher than ours, limiting her vocal range. But archaeological evidence suggests these early hominins had developed sophisticated warning systems, different calls for different predators, specific tones for food discoveries, rhythmic patterns that could carry over long distances. It wasn't music as we know it, but it was organized sound communication. And organized communication is the first step towards art, the foundation upon which all human creativity would eventually build. But the revolution happened with Homo erectus, 1.8 million years ago. Picture the scene in vivid detail. A group of 20 individuals walks across the African savanna under a scorching sun. The landscape stretches endlessly, golden grasslands punctuated by acacia trees, the air shimmering with heat waves. Suddenly someone shouts. It's not a cry of panic or warning, but something new, a rhythmic pattern. Ah, 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 ah! The sound cuts through the humid air like a blade. The others, without thinking, respond in the same rhythm. Their voices blend, harmonize, create something greater than the sum of its parts. They have just invented humanity's first work song, a technological breakthrough as significant as the discovery of fire. Why does this matter so profoundly? Because synchronized rhythm releases endorphins in the brain, builds unbreakable social bonds, and increases group cooperation by up to 40%, according to modern neuroscience studies. These early musicians weren't just making noise, they were literally soldering their tribe together with sounds, creating invisible chains of trust and loyalty that could mean the difference between survival and extinction. Music, from its very beginning, was a social technology more powerful than any weapon or tool. 400,000 years ago, something changed everything in human evolution: the systematic control of fire. And with it, humanity's first sound system was born, transforming not just how we cooked and stayed warm, but how we experienced sound and community. Picture this scene in cinematic detail. A starry night in the Middle Paleolithic period. The Milky Way stretches overhead like a river of light, untainted by any artificial illumination. A group of Homo heidelbergensis gathers around a carefully tended bonfire in a clearing surrounded by towering pine trees. The fire doesn't just warm their bodies, it creates a natural amphitheater, a stage carved from light and shadow. The dancing flames project enormous moving silhouettes on the surrounding trees and rocks, and the rhythmic crackling and popping of burning wood becomes Earth's first drum set, providing a constant, hypnotic beat that would influence human music for millennia to come. It's in this magical setting that music truly explodes into complexity and sophistication. Because now, for the first time in evolutionary history, our ancestors have something precious: leisure time. Fire extended the useful day from sunrise to sunset to a full 16-hour cycle, creating twilight hours that never existed before in human experience. And what do primates do when survival needs are met and time is abundant? We create art, we explore, we push the boundaries of what's possible. Archaeologists have discovered fascinating evidence of this musical revolution at sites around the world. At Kesem Cave in Israel, researchers found bones with rhythmic marks that tell a remarkable story. These aren't random scratches from butchering or tool-making, but deliberate patterned indentations created by percussion. Someone 300,000 years ago was systematically tapping bones against stones, creating humanity's first musical instruments. The bones show wear patterns consistent with thousands of hours of use, suggesting that music making had become a regular, important activity in these early communities. But the most impressive discovery is this: the bonfire didn't just enable music. It fundamentally created the concept of audience, performance, and shared aesthetic experience. For the first time in Earth's 4-6 billion-year history, living beings sat in a circle not to eat, not to plan hunts, not to groom each other, but simply to watch and listen to a performance. Fire invented the stage, the audience, and the show. It created the first clear distinction between performer and spectator, between creator and consumer, concepts that would eventually evolve into every form of entertainment we know today. Here we reach the crucial evolutionary milestone. Around 200,000 years ago, when Homo sapiens emerged in the highlands of East Africa, something extraordinary happened in our anatomy that would change the trajectory of life on Earth. Our larynx descended significantly in our throats, our tongues became dramatically more flexible and precise, and our brains developed entirely new neural networks specifically designed to process complex acoustic information. These weren't gradual changes. They were rapid evolutionary leaps that scientists are still trying to fully understand. The result of these anatomical changes was unprecedented. We became the only primates on Earth capable of creating truly sophisticated, emotionally complex music. While other great apes can learn to use basic tools and even rudimentary sign language, none can create the intricate melodies, harmonies, and rhythmic patterns that come naturally to even very young human children. Imagine a group of early sapiens 100,000 years ago migrating through the challenging terrain of East Africa during a period of dramatic climate change. The group consists of perhaps 30 individuals, men, women, children, elders, carrying everything they own on their backs. During the long, exhausting journey across dried riverbeds and rocky highlands, someone starts humming. Not words. Complex language is still developing in our species, but melodies. Sounds that rise and fall like the landscape around them, that tell emotional stories without needing vocabulary, that keep the group psychologically united during the most difficult and dangerous journeys of their lives. This remarkable discovery comes from cutting-edge genetic research on the FOXP2 gene, known among scientists as the language gene. Recent studies have shown that the specific populations of Homo sapiens who successfully migrated out of Africa carried unique mutations of this gene, variations that not only enabled the development of complex language, but also provided the neurological foundation for processing intricate rhythms, harmonies, and musical patterns. This genetic gift was literally written into our DNA, passed down through thousands of generations to every human alive today. This is where the true magic of human evolution reveals itself. Our species didn't just accidentally develop music as a side effect of other cognitive abilities. We actively used music as a survival tool to spread across the entire world. Each migrating group carried specific songs, rhythms, and musical traditions with them, like genetic fingerprints, creating humanity's first cultural identities long before we had written language or permanent settlements. Music wasn't just art or entertainment, it was a passport that identified you to strangers, an emotional GPS that helped you remember important information, and a social glue that held communities together across vast distances and time periods. And then we reach the pinnacle of prehistoric musical achievement, 40,000 years ago, in the limestone caves of Europe, when our Cro-Magnon ancestors discovered something that would have seemed impossible to earlier generations. Certain caves weren't just convenient shelters from weather and predators. They were giant, naturally occurring musical instruments, acoustic marvels that could transform the human voice into something approaching the divine. The famous Lascaux cave in France provides the most stunning example of this discovery. While the cave is celebrated worldwide for its extraordinary Paleolithic paintings, images of horses, bison, and mysterious human figures that seem to move in flickering firelight, modern acoustic engineers have revealed something even more remarkable. The cave was essentially designed by nature as a recording studio with perfect acoustics. The paintings are not randomly scattered across the limestone walls. They are located with laser-like precision at exactly the points where the cave's natural acoustics create perfect sound amplification and resonance. Imagine this scene with full sensory detail. A Paleolithic shaman, his body painted with ochre and charcoal in patterns that took hours to create, enters the cave carrying a carefully crafted hollow bone, humanity's first sophisticated wind instrument. He has spent months learning to play this instrument, practicing finger positions and breath control techniques that require genuine musical skill. He positions himself deliberately in front of the wall, where he and his community have painted a massive, lifelike mammoth using pigments mixed from minerals and animal blood. He takes a deep breath, places the bone flute to his lips, and blows. The sound that emerges doesn't just echo through the cave, it transforms, amplifies, and resonates in ways that seem to bring the painted mammoth to life. To the people waiting outside the cave entrance, it genuinely sounds like the mammoth itself is roaring from within the earth. This wasn't coincidence or accident, it was sophisticated acoustic engineering. These prehistoric artists had discovered through careful experimentation that sound and visual art, when combined in caves with specific geological properties, could create transcendental experiences that would profoundly affect everyone who witnessed them. They weren't just creating random paintings and playing simple tunes. They were designing humanity's first multimedia experiences, complete sound and light shows that could induce altered states of consciousness and create lasting memories that would be passed down through generations. The archaeological evidence for this is overwhelming and continues to grow with each new discovery. Caves like Chauvet and Altamira contain specific locations where researchers have found fossilized musical instruments lying directly beside the most impressive and complex paintings. Modern acoustic analysis using sophisticated computer modeling confirms what our ancestors discovered through pure experimentation. These locations have natural reverberation times, amplification properties, and harmonic resonances that can transform even simple human voices into mystical, otherworldly experiences that seem to connect the listener directly to the spirit world. But where did these sophisticated musical instruments come from? The answer reveals something profound about human creativity and resourcefulness. They evolved directly from the most basic tools needed for survival, showing how necessity truly is the mother of invention. The first musical instrument was almost certainly a hollow bone, originally used for a much more practical purpose: extracting nutrient-rich marrow from animal bones, food that was absolutely essential for fueling our species' rapidly developing brains. Someone, approximately 60,000 years ago, made a discovery that would change human culture forever. When you blow air through a hollow bone in just the right way, it produces clear, controllable musical tones. With this simple observation, the flute was born, launching humanity's journey toward musical sophistication. The oldest confirmed musical instrument ever discovered by archaeologists is truly extraordinary. A flute made from the wing bone of a griffon vulture, dating back 43,000 years, found in Hohlefels cave in Germany. But this ancient artifact is far more than just an interesting museum piece. It represents a technological and cognitive revolution that required our ancestors to master complex engineering techniques, calculate precise mathematical intervals between finger holes, and develop sophisticated understanding of acoustic principles that wouldn't be formally codified by science until thousands of years later. These primitive cave dwellers were actually acoustic engineers working with materials and tools that would challenge even modern craftspeople. The mathematical precision required to create a functional flute is genuinely impressive. Making an instrument that can play recognizable melodies requires understanding exact proportional relationships between the holes, calculating air pressure dynamics, and achieving perfect symmetry in drilling techniques. The fact that our ancestors accomplished this using only stone tools and fire demonstrates cognitive abilities that rival any modern human achievements. And our prehistoric musicians certainly didn't stop with simple flutes. Archaeological sites across Europe have yielded drums constructed from mammoth hide, stretched over frameworks made from mammoth bones, creating instruments that could produce thunderous rhythms audible for miles across the landscape. Rattles crafted from the teeth of cave bears and saber-toothed cats produce sharp, clicking rhythms. String instruments made from carefully processed animal tendons could create haunting melodies that seem to capture the emotional essence of life and death on the prehistoric frontier. Each of these objects served a dual function that perfectly exemplifies human ingenuity. They were simultaneously practical survival tools and sophisticated musical instruments. Perhaps the most impressive archaeological discovery related to prehistoric music comes from the site of Isturitz in France, where researchers have uncovered what can only be described as a 35,000-year-old instrument workshop. The site contains hundreds of flutes in various stages of production, from rough bone blanks to finished decorated instruments that rival modern craftsmanship. Raw materials, specialized stone tools for drilling and shaping, and what appear to be quality-controlled testing areas suggest that these nomadic hunter-gatherers had developed specialized roles within their communities. Humanity's first professional instrument makers, prehistoric equivalents of modern companies like Yamaha or Steinway, dedicated entirely to creating tools for making music. But this raises a fundamental question that goes to the heart of human nature. Why did our ancestors, living in constant danger from predators, climate change, and resource scarcity, invest so much precious time, energy, and materials in creating music? The answer reveals something profound about what makes us uniquely human. Modern anthropological studies with contemporary hunter-gatherer groups, such as the Kung people of the Kalahari Desert in Africa, provide fascinating insights into the role of music in human societies. These studies demonstrate conclusively that for these groups, music is not entertainment or leisure activity. It's advanced social technology that serves crucial functions for group survival and cohesion. When a group engages in collective singing, several remarkable physiological and psychological changes occur simultaneously. Individual heartbeats synchronize to create a unified group rhythm. Cortisol levels, the hormone associated with stress and anxiety, drop dramatically throughout the group, and oxytocin production, the hormone associated with trust, bonding, and cooperation, increases dramatically. In just 30 minutes of collective music making, a group of complete strangers can transform into a cohesive, trusting community that functions almost like an extended family. Now imagine this powerful social technology 50,000 years ago. Two groups of Homo sapiens, each numbering perhaps 20 individuals, encounter each other at a water source during a period of extreme drought. Both groups are armed, territorial, and desperate for resources. They can choose to fight to the death in a conflict that will likely leave both groups decimated, or they can attempt something unprecedented. They can sing together. Those groups that chose music over violence were more likely to survive, reproduce, and pass their genes and cultural knowledge on to future generations, including us. Music was quite literally our species' first social networking platform, our first recommendation algorithm for identifying trustworthy individuals, our first global communication system for sharing important information across vast distances. Millennia before Facebook, Twitter, or any digital technology, our ancestors had discovered that songs and shared musical experiences could connect people more deeply and reliably than words alone ever could. But music served another crucial function that was literally a matter of life and death. It was our ancestors' primary method for storing and transmitting essential survival information. Each tribe developed specific songs that contained detailed stories about migration routes, precise locations of seasonal water sources, behavioral patterns of dangerous and useful animals, locations of medicinal plants, and techniques for crafting essential tools. Losing these songs meant losing the accumulated wisdom of countless generations. It meant dying lost, hungry, and defenseless in an unforgiving world. And here we are today, 40,000 years after those first cave concerts, surrounded by wireless headphones, streaming applications, and recording studios that fit in our pockets. We've made an extraordinary technological journey from the limestone cave to the smartphone, from the vulture bone flute to the digital synthesizer capable of producing any sound imaginable. Our ancestors could never have conceived of the musical complexity and accessibility we take for granted every day. But this raises a profound question that should give us pause. Have we truly evolved as a species, or have we simply changed the packaging while the core experience remains essentially unchanged? Because when you put on your wireless headphones, close your eyes, and lose yourself completely in a favorite song, you are doing exactly what that young Homo sapiens did 40,000 years ago in the Lascaux cave. You are using carefully organized sound waves to alter your consciousness, to connect with emotions and experiences beyond your immediate physical reality, to transform an ordinary moment into a transcendental experience that can change your entire mood, perspective, and sense of connection to the world around you. The only significant difference between that prehistoric musician and yourself is that he needed an entire limestone cave system to amplify and transform his voice into something magical. You can achieve the same consciousness-altering experience with two small speakers positioned precisely in your ears, delivering sound waves that have been digitally perfected and transmitted instantly from anywhere on Earth. Technologically, we have made evolutionary leaps that would seem like pure magic to our ancestors. But emotionally, psychologically, and spiritually, We remain essentially the same primates who first discovered that the combination of organized sound, rhythmic patterns, and melodic structures equals something that can only be described as magic, the ability to transcend physical limitations and connect directly with the deepest parts of human experience. And perhaps this continuity is the most genuinely human characteristic there is, our infinite capacity to transform basic survival necessities into high art, to convert the struggle for existence into expressions of beauty, to transform simple echoes into eternal experiences that can move people to tears, laughter, love, and transcendence thousands of years after their creation. The next time you listen to your favorite song, whether it's classical, rock, hip-hop, or electronic, take a moment to remember you are participating in and honoring a 40,000-year-old tradition that connects you directly to every human who has ever lived. You are the direct heir of that first prehistoric musician who discovered that caves could function as recording studios, that wind could be shaped into melody, and that silence has always been nothing more than the temporary space between the notes that define our humanity. If this prehistoric sound journey resonated with something ancestral deep within you, show your approval and subscribe for more expeditions into the fundamental mysteries that made us human. Because the history of music is at its core the story of who we are as a species and what we might still become.